And we will go ahead and get started. Looks like we have quite a few today. This is good. I'm pumped about our topic today, folks. So we're going to go ahead and get started just a minute or two early. I got a pretty tight schedule this morning. Got a couple of calls afterwards, so we're about 3 minutes early. And if anything, people will just miss the first repetitive slides that we do on every presentation. So this is the agenda for the month. We're going to go over a few topics that are familiar with everybody that we do every call. And then we're going to go over our top performers for the month of February. And then our category or our topic for sales this month is actually going to be backsplash upsell and price conditioning. And then again, we'll discuss some upcoming topics as we always do as well at the end. So for those of you, again, we always pretend as if this is your first time using the platform. Clearly, you're good enough to get on the call. Congratulations. But we want to make sure you understand, although I try to mute everybody to where when you first log on, you're muted automatically. Occasionally, it'll get funky and we'll be able to hear you. So just in case, you want to make sure that you're muted. And also, the video function on this is not necessary for this meeting. So if you have it enabled, make sure you hit the video camera button on your device. That way, people can't see what you're doing in the background. Again, I assume that people are all doing very professional things, but just in case, we probably should avoid having you on camera. And then, just as far as what this platform is designed to do, it's designed to give us the ability to do some coaching for you, do meetings like this. And so if you or anyone at your location, your owner, have a desire or request to do some coaching one-on-one or do some training, you can always request, and then we'll use this platform to do some training and be more interactive and back and forth. The tutorial link is down there. Again, I always send it out, so I'm sure you all have watched it at some point, but that's all the last link is there. The iCloud photo sharing program, again, we go over this every month, but I want to show you the new additions that we've made. I actually have one that I've forgotten to put up that Chico sent me, which is a really awesome picture of an island they did. And some new trendy looks. So we always try to keep these up to date. In case you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, this iCloud photo sharing is a free program that we can use to, I basically send you invitations to an iCloud photo album. And there are lots of these albums that will allow you to automatically get updates and pictures of installations using our products. So, if you haven't already requested that you join, this only will work on an iPad, an iPhone, or some sort of Apple product. A laptop works fine as well. So if you need to join this, just send me an email request requesting that you be added to the list. And I'll show you some pictures, again, as I always do, along with where to look for the new ones. But again, it's nice because it gives your customer a visual of our installation, and then they can kind of see the finished product, and it helps you get buy-in from the customer on when you're out there selling. So as I always do, again, I'm gonna show you a few pictures that we just added. And again, by the way, there is a tutorial, as you can see, the YouTube tutorial there. That shows you, if you're unfamiliar with how to set your device up, that tutorial goes through how to join each album and making sure your device is set up properly. But it must be an Apple product. So just one moment again, I'm gonna stop share, and then if you can confirm that you see the photo screen. Sorry, I'm gonna turn down my lounge jazz. You see my little guy. So can someone confirm that they can see the picture screen now? Let's see here. Adam, can you see the pictures, the photos behind me? Perfect. Awesome. All right, so the photos, again, I'm sure you guys have all seen these before, but I'm still going to run over these. So you're going to get individual invites like you see here for each album. B&A is before and after. We've got, gray cabinet section, which shows installations with gray cabinets, so on and so forth. We've got some nice ones where it shows different sync options. And don't worry, you won't get invited to my family photo albums. These are all just combined in the same iCloud account. Some of the newest additions that we have, I have to thank Mr. Moffat out there in Vegas. He sent us some new installation photos. So what I like about this, I mean, typically I like to have individual shots back and forth. I think it's more impactful to be able to go before, after, and one big, shot, and it's more dramatic. But these still are awesome because what I've been lacking in has been installations with products that aren't necessarily trend mosaic glass products. So, it's nice. Again, it shows some different things. Like in this application, you can see they cut off the high bar and then went to, just a large island in the center. This same thing, they cut down the half wall and then they made it a nice overhang and then added some backsplash. That's not trend backsplash. So, I'm very light on those photos. So if anybody happens to have good photos using Surfaces products, or just really nice installations, again, before and afters, I always want those. So if you can send them, it would be much appreciated. And then when you send them, I will be sure to add them to the albums and it'll automatically update to everybody that's joined. So some of these here, these are the newest additions. And again, this folder is an awesome one because it really does highlight some pretty impactful before and afters. I know I've shown this one 1,000 times, but this before and after, if you show this to a customer, it's just going to wow them. It's going to knock their socks off. So this one's courtesy of Granite Transformations in Ottawa. So this is really a helpful, again, tool to use when you're out there and should be pretty specific. The competition is one that I always go over just because I want you to be aware that there are pictures in here of Quartz products that aren't perfect. People oftentimes think, oh, well, we're the same as Quartz. So it's important that you show your customers that we are different than Quartz. We are not the same. They have heat issues. They also have issues with cracking because of how heavy they are, and they can't really flex or move at all. And that's the beauty of our products is they can actually flex and move. Also, you can show the customer that the UV rays really impact the Quartz as opposed to our products. So very important that you use this to your advantage whenever you can. And again, I always, like I said, every month spend time trying to make sure everyone's up to date on the newest photos that I've added. So please send more and I will continue to add them and keep everybody up to date. I'm going to stop sharing there and go back to our presentation. Can you confirm that you're able to see my screen again with the presentation? Adam, Natalie, anybody? Can you guys see the PowerPoint again? All right, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and continue on. Again, all you have to do to join that is, again, send me an email. So just send me an email saying you want to join. I'll send you a ton of invites. If you run into problems, sometimes when I send all the invitations at once, it will get stuck in your spam folder because it'll assume that I'm spamming you. So just check your spam folder if you don't get the invites. But if you don't have them in either, it could be blocked and not even sent to you from your provider. So you can always reach out again and say, hey, Matt, I didn't get them. And then I'll start working through and troubleshooting with you. Anyways, next we're going to go through our top performers for the month of February. February was actually a really solid month for sales reps out there. We had a nice list of folks that did really well for the month of February. Paul, Mallory, all the way down to Susie Atkins. We had some very strong performers across the board. But our top 5, which I always want to recognize by name, are as follows. Dennis Cherry in Nashville did $218,821 out of Nashville. So that is extremely impressive production for 1 month. And again, I was just down in Nashville doing an event. I do not believe that, again, any of this was a big commercial job. It wasn't just some one huge sale. He just really did a great job and kicked butt out there for the month of February. Francine Steers in Santa Rosa, again, amazing numbers, just missed out on the top spot at $217,821. Very, very close. They were within $1,000 of each other. Very, very strong performance there up in Northern California. Jan in Southeast Michigan or Farmington Hills, Michigan, $160,654. Very impressive there as well. Pretty solid, consistent numbers coming out of that location every month. I'm super pumped to see Kenny up there on the list. I had a chance to train with Kenny a number of months back, and this guy's awesome. He's really a motivated and positive guy. I'm super pumped to see that he had 157, 282 in OKC last month. And last but not least in the top 5 is Jennifer Lee, always a good consistent performer out of Jacksonville, 146,791. I went ahead and sent certificates of accomplishment to each one of your owners, so feel free to give them a call or an email if they haven't sent it to you yet. But I really want to congratulate each one of you. You did a fantastic job for the month of February, and let's see who we can get for the following month here in March. Hopefully we can get the same type of numbers out of you reps. So the topic again that we're going to cover for the month is a backsplash upsell. Mike Moffitt is really a great, person that does a lot of upselling for backsplashes on almost every one of his jobs that he sells. And again, I think that it's really important that you approach backsplash upsell as not being afraid that it's going to add an extra total to your job cost and thus lessening the chance of you closing the sale. Instead, looking at it as an opportunity to, again, have a nice average ticket, getting a customer a true blue full installation that's going to look fantastic. So, the idea behind this is that you want to make sure sometimes that you plant this idea in their head. So there are occasions where, as we all know, customers haven't really considered, I see it on the shows, but I haven't necessarily thought about it for my kitchen. You need to plant that idea. You need to tell them, hey, it's an ideal time for us to just consider this. Maybe during your needs assessment, you could bring it up. And again, got a question right on the needs assessment. What do you have visualized for your backsplash? That at least starts the conversation and lets you know whether or not they've considered doing a high backsplash or just keeping a low backsplash if they already have one, or maybe keeping their existing backsplash if it's an old one. Again, you can maybe talk them into considering a new one. One I used to use all the time is, do you watch HGTV? Usually the answer is yes for our customers. How often do you see kitchen updates on those shows where a high backsplash is not done? It's very common that they're doing a high backsplash is the kind of point you're trying to drive home. Another one I used to use is it's rare to see these days to see updated kitchens with no high backsplash. It's not very common that you're going to see one that just has a low backsplash. When you walk into your kitchen, you got to remind them sometimes, all right, when you walk in, what's the first thing that you see? Is it your countertop or is it the back wall, the backsplash? It's your backsplash, so it's something that's important to drive home. That area of your kitchen has a major impact on the overall look of your remodel. So again, just re-emphasizing the importance of the backsplash over and over again. I'm not saying you say every one of these every appointment. I'm simply saying you should bring this up and start planting the seed with your customers early. So the visual. Most of the customers that are out there today need to have a visual of what the final result might look like before they commit the extra expense to it. Sometimes they don't expect this expense because they've just planned on a low backsplash. So it's important that you give them that visual. And there are a couple ways that you can do this. Pictures, obviously my personal favorite. Using pictures can be a very powerful tool for you to upsell a customer. The sample boards and cards, that's another way that we can do it. And then lastly, if you still have an old version of our iGranite app, at one point we had the iGranite app. We no longer have it available, but if it's still on your device, that's another way that you can kind of plug and play and show them different backsplash combinations with different countertops. We are in development of updating the iGranite app, but it's going to be a while before that actually gets tackled, in my understanding last I heard. So it only works if you've already got it on your device. You can't go to the App Store and download it now. So if you use pictures, that's the first category I'm going to go over. So pictures, in my opinion, they are a must, and you need to take advantage when you decide to use pictures on what you show. I'll give you an example. So in this slide here, this is the far left, the low backsplash. That's the exact picture I would always show people. Now, why did I show that picture? because it's kind of dumpy. It doesn't really highlight in a really, oh wow, kitchen. I mean, this customer is probably very happy with their install, so I don't want to dog them too much, but it really emphasizes the difference between a low backsplash and then if you show high backsplashes, it really shows a more complete install and something that's a more impactful wow factor, which is what you're going for. So if you start by going and showing, well, here are options that we could do for your backsplash. Here's a low backsplash, and you show them a picture like the one on the left, and then here are your high backsplash options, and then you show them a series of beautiful looking installations. It's naturally going to get their wheels turning that, hey, this is something that I should probably consider. It does look much better. And if you don't have pictures, again, sample cards are a possibility. I don't mind sample cards to supplement your sample board stash, because I get it. You don't necessarily have like a big moving truck you can carry every item in, but I'm a big proponent of boards personally, but I would take sample cards with me on those rare ones where I knew, okay, I don't have a number of customers every day asking me for hex or whatever it was. I would bring a card to supplement where I didn't have a board. But grouted boards, in my opinion, are the best. If you can show a completely grouted option and throw it up there on the backsplash along with the countertop sample, it really goes a long way to make them visualize in person, not necessarily just in a photo. Again, photo is important, but in person I always feel like is a little bit better. My car, when I was a rep years ago, was ridiculous. I literally had every sample you could imagine in that car. So my back of my car was always like down a little bit. It was very heavy. But again, nice. And I would only come out and grab a few boards at a time. It's not like I carried every single board into the house every time. So if you do use grouted boards, you should never show one that's in poor condition. If your board has been damaged over the years, it's slipped, it falls out of your trunk or car or in the house, it happens. It's okay. Just reorder. Again, I can tell you for sure as a trend rep, we wouldn't charge you for the boards. So don't hesitate to order new ones and say, hey, I've got a cracked board. I don't want your customers to be looking at these types of boards, because what the heck is the point? I mean, are you selling them a premium product, but then you show them something that looks like garbage in person? It's not really going to do you any favors. So I would say if you've got some cracked boards, get rid of them, order some new ones, and then in the meantime, while you're waiting, just supplement with cards. So it's important to reassure your customers when we're dealing with price on Backsplash that you're not selling them into something that's going to break the bank. You can present the Backsplash cost in a few different ways. And again, there's the first method would just be, you could just, of course, price the high backsplash only, which is what a lot of reps do. They'll actually measure out the high backsplash and say, well, let me just price it out for you. It doesn't cost anything. You guys will go picking things out, and then you give them the price that's just the cost for the high backsplash. So I tried to put out an example here. So in this example, your prospect has 29 square feet of a high backsplash. If they were to cover their existing low backsplash, they'd have to cover about 7.25 square feet, and they would also have 22 linear footage for edging. So in that test kitchen, if you will, if you were just use these numbers, which again, keep in mind, I'm just using a number here, guys. I know everybody charges different for backsplash, but I used $85 a square foot for a high backsplash. So if you took $29 or 29 square feet times $85 a square foot, you've got about $2,400 for your upgrade to your backsplash. So Mr. and Mr. Prospect, this is your backsplash cost would be an additional $2,465. So that's one way you can push out the estimate. But in my opinion, I think this low versus high is a better way to go about it. Anytime I would get a customer that I could tell was partially or at least a little bit interested in a high backsplash, I would instead measure their low backsplash and calculate the cost of what is it going to take if they were to cover the low backsplash. Because realistically for me, most of the time it was either they were going to do a low backsplash or they were going to do a high backsplash. So they're going to have some expense there one way or the other. So what I would do is I would calculate out, and I took the same exact figures in the last slide. So 7.25 square feet and then 22 linear feet of edging. And I would calculate what would that cost them. that would cost them, in this example, again, this is just, again, generic numbers that I used to use, but again, I know it's different at every location. So in this test kitchen, it would have been $543.75 to cover the material, to cover the low backsplash, and then another $220 in linear edging, which I know can vary drastically from location to location. So the total cost on the low splash would have been $763.75. Now, take with that the same example we had last time, which is $24.65, and really I would present it more as, here's the difference. Now, of course, I'm not showing the customer these two figures of the low versus the high. I would simply say, okay, now I know my difference between those is $1,701.25. So I'm, instead of saying, oh, your backsplash is going to cost you $2,500, I'm saying, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, this beautiful backsplash that we've selected together will only be an additional $1,700. So on the whole, in the grand scheme of things, it's going to have a huge impact, and it's only going to cost $1,700 more, if you even want to bring up price. But again, if you're going to separate the line item, whatever you're going to do, it's important to soften the blow so you're not hitting them with an insanely high number. And guys, this $1,700 is a pretty competitive rate, and you're using very high-end material. If you were to try to call out a contractor to do a backsplash for them, they'd still charge them $1,200-1,300 for, a pretty crappy backsplash, one that is not nearly as nice as what we offer. So the next part of our sales topics we're going to cover on this call is price conditioning. Again, just to give you a brief description of what I'm talking about, price conditioning itself, a lot of people don't really understand the term itself. It is really planting a number and getting a customer to expect a higher price than what they've thought of already as their budget. And again, you can do this a couple of different ways, but it's a crucial step of the sales process. Every one of your customers, whether they want to admit it or not, have come up with a number in their head of what they want to spend. So your job is to get them off of that number and into something more realistic. Now, keep in mind, your customers don't have any experience in remodeling. So I always use the example of when I bought my first home and the backyard was a mess. I wanted to do a paver. I wanted to fence my yard, and I was wrong on all that stuff because it wasn't my expertise. So I said, I'll probably spend it's like $4,000 for a paver. That's not bad. I mean, I'm sure we could swing a $4,000 paver, and then the cost comes back as $8,000 or $6,000. So again, I still bought it, but it took me a little bit of time to realize I'm not an expert here. I should listen to the experts. And I got a couple of bids, but still, again, you need to be able to understand that customer's number is usually nonsensical. It's either from a cheap Chinese quote or they just don't have a clue and they've never done it before. So there are a few basic steps that you need to take to properly price condition a customer. Building your trust with the customer is essential. So if they don't think that you know what you're talking about, you're not going to have an easy time price conditioning. They're going to be like, okay, this guy's nuts. He's quoting me crazy high numbers. He doesn't even know what he's talking about, or she doesn't even know what she's talking about. So you have to understand first, of course, with the needs assessment and other things, what do they want to get out of their project and build up some trust that way. So you really fully understand what they want you to do. You have to be confident and knowledgeable to build the trust, clearly. If you don't know your stuff, it's going to come through. I always recommend, and we used to make our sales reps do this, shadow on a template, shadow on an installation. Go to, again, secret shop at your competitors. Understand not only how your process works fully and completely, but you need to be able to secret shop so you know what that customer is experiencing on the other side of the fence. So if they go to your local Chinese granite place, what's their experience like? If you can speak with confidence about it, it's going to strengthen your case as the knowledgeable one, and they're going to be more receptive to the prices you're going to throw at them. Know your scope of work before attempting to price condition. If you don't fully understand what they want you to do, and they're just asking, well, give me a ballpark. What's this stuff cost? Well, our average job is $7 to $10 grand, or $5 to $7 grand. And then they're like, oh, that's awesome. Well, anyways, come take a look at my cabinets, my counters, my backsplash. And then I've got some vanities I want to do too. You've just blown things up. So you really need to make sure that you're understanding the full scope of work before you even attempt of doing anything with price conditioning. Be an expert with your numbers. So this is something that it takes time. Again, you have to kind of not only be an expert with what your products cost and, being able to see a room and understand how much things are going to cost based on the scope of work, but also knowing your competitors so well that you can speak again with confidence by saying, oh, I'm sure they gave you the price of their, stock. They have 8 colors that are bait and switch colors. Basically, they get you into the door to go look. I'm talking about, of course, the competition. They've got you, going into their showroom, looking at 8 cheap colors that are $39 a square foot. But let me guess, they didn't charge you for tear out and haul away and all this other stuff. So they just nickel and dime you to death, right? If you speak with confidence and you know those numbers like that, then your client's going to trust you. And there you go. So that's the next bullet point. Although it takes some time, again, I was, by the end of my career as a sales rep years ago, I was able to eyeball kitchens. Once I knew the scope of work, I could look at something and know, all right, so this is, in my head, I'm thinking this is going to cost about 15, 16 grand. So I knew the number to start with, so I could go a little higher than that and soften the blow whenever it came time to present price. And then when you get to presenting the numbers you need to do it with confidence. If you go there and you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to drop this number on you because it's so high, people are going to lose it and you're not going to it's not going to land. You can't be squeamish when you're presenting price. You have to go with confidence. This is worth every nickel and we probably should charge you a little bit more. You're not going to say that, of course. Now, here are some picture examples that I would use. Another method that you can use that's very powerful with this whole picture thing is that you can show them kitchens that look like their kitchen. So in this example, you could show a before and after, courtesy of Mike Moffitt. Thank you, Mike, again. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, this is a project we recently worked on. As you can see, the scope of work we completed here is similar to what you're asking us to do for you. So in this kitchen, and then you can say, oh, we did a high backsplash, we used statuario or Calcutta, we did an undermounted sink. You're just going to insert the description of the kitchen that you're seeing before you. We completed this project in one day and it cost this customer $8,500. Can you believe the difference that it made? And you're dropping that number, so it's high. Maybe it's their kitchen or this type of work for you locally is only going to be $7,500, but you're going high. You're trying to read the reaction, and then also you're trying to insert a number. Here's a medium-sized, I would say, not a huge like gut the kitchen deal, but you want to have a few examples ready to go, so you can definitely have different sizes based on the kitchen that you're in. So same thing, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, this is a project we recently worked on. As you can see, the scope of work we completed here is similar to what you're asking us to do for you. They redid their cabinets. We cabinet refaced. We did a high backsplash. We did a countertop. We tore out a half wall and went down. You got to have these examples prepped and ready. So it takes a little bit of you getting to know the pictures that you are going to use. But then when you have it, you can do this tactic, which is we completed the project in 5 days and it cost this customer $19,000. Can you believe what a difference it made? You need to be able to speak with confidence about that and plant that number early as you're kind of, after you've gone over the scope of work, you know what they're doing. And again, you can show them a good image that'll help them visualize the finished product. So Mr. and Mrs. Customer, this project we recently worked on, you can see it's the same or similar to what we're asking to do for you. This is the biggie. This is one where it's, okay, we've torn out cabinets. We've redone a lot of things in this kitchen. And again, this one was courtesy of Ottawa. Again, I always want to call them out for sending me this great pick. But this one cost $30,000. So you can see small, medium, large. You shouldn't just have one. You could have a couple of different ones and pick the ones that are going to work based on the house that you're in. And again, that's it pretty much. I mean, the tactic there, you can see when you're price conditioning, you want to make sure you're an expert in your field. You can eyeball, and that takes practice and time. And then again, knowing your competition is big. And then having a few pictures that you can show them as examples of finished product. So you can give them before and afters and show them how much it cost and how long it took. That's really the name of the game. So that is the topic that we wanted to cover for this month. Again, some upcoming topics that we're going to cover is getting a customer to select one color, porch lighting, setting a good customer expectation, how to sell cabinets properly, whether they be refaced or new. My customer doesn't like glass for backsplash, and then bathrooms. Bathrooms are a tricky one, so it's important that we go over that. And again, if anyone has any suggestions on topics, I always say make sure that you're forwarding them to me. I do take that into account when I'm deciding what we do for future meetings. But without further ado, that is the extent of our presentation today. Any questions? I'll open up the chat here. If anybody has anything they want to add, or if they have questions about anything, you feel free to type out. I'll give you about 10 seconds. Nope. No, nobody. All right, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for joining the call today, and we will see you next month.